Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father and God of all wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, we enter your presence today with joy and jubilation. We acknowledge this day as the day that you have made, and so we rejoice and be glad in it. We also celebrate this day as a historic day, a milestone in the life of the University of Technology. And so, God, as we gather today to extol your name and to install your Son, we thank you for the leadership that you have raised up over the years in this institution, the University of Technology. Through their faithful hands and creative minds, you have moved this university to high levels of excellence. We recognize, however, omniscient God, that new leadership is always needed for new seasons. In this season, O God, you have raised up your Son, Professor Stephen Charles Vasciannie. Mighty God, we pray that you may establish your Son and give him the capacity to execute the functions of his office with excellence and humility. So, Lord, we present this ceremony to you. Enable each participant to execute their function with distinction and dignity. We pray also for the smooth flow of the proceedings. And we pray that at the end of the ceremony, we will all agree that it was time well spent. May you receive all glory and praise, and may the leadership of your Son, Stephen, be affirmed in this gathering. In Christ Jesus' name we pray, and we all say, amen.
Minister of Education, Senator, the Honorable Royal Reid, CD, Chief Justice of Jamaica, the Honorable Zayla McCullough, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chief of the Defense Staff, Mr. Rocky Mead, Major General Rocky Mead, Custos of Kingston, Pro-Chancellor, members of the University Council, University Registrar, other members of academia, members of staff and the student body, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This gathering has been invited to witness the installation of Professor Stephen Charles Vasciannie, CD, as its fourth president of the University of Technology of Jamaica. Professor Vasciannie is a distinguished person. He comes to the University of Technology with an already established, illustrious career in teaching, scholarship, and research, and having amassed over a decade of experience in international law and practice. He has won numerous awards for outstanding teaching and research, and has served with great distinction in both the private and public sectors. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I now declare this function and proceedings open. Will the company please rise? I now call upon the University Registrar, Dr. Elaine Wallace, to accompany Professor Vasciannie to the platform. Please sit.
Please join with us for the singing of the university song.
With art, science, and technology, let's build a future together. A future that is like a ship sailing bravely through any weather. So as we seek to enrich our lives and new horizons explore, UTech stands to point the way to make a future secure. University of Technology, Jamaica, we will always sing in praise, praise of you. And the knowledge you give teaches us how to live. So to UTech will always be true. You teach us to give of our best, to lend a hand to inspire,
to answer to where duties call and to aim it higher and higher.
wherever life shall lead us. Your banner will be unfurled as we proudly stand to serve our nation and the wide world. University of Technology, Jamaica, we will always sing in praise, praise of you. And the knowledge you give teaches us how to live. So to UTech will always be true. And the knowledge you give teaches us how to live. So to UTech will always be true.
Chancellor, I'm advising that in accordance with the provisions of Statute 4 of the University of Technology Jamaica Act, number 27, 1999, the Council accepted the recommendation of the Appointments Committee that Professor Stephen Vasciannie, CD, be appointed as the fourth president of the university. I now call upon the public orator to present to you Professor Stephen Charles Vasciannie to be installed as president of the University of Technology, Jamaica.
Chancellor. Walter Emerson once said of leadership, "Our chief want is someone who will inspire us to be what we know we could be." Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, today it is my pleasure to formally introduce Professor Stephen Charles Vasciannie, who became the 4th president of the University of Technology, Jamaica in January. I submit that Professor Vasciannie is that someone on whose capable shoulders now rests the responsibility of inspiring our university to be what we know we can be. Chancellor, with his proven record of excellence and his conviction that the brave may fall but never yield, although one should try to minimize the number of times we fall, President Vasciannie is not expected to shirk the responsibility, however onerous. He has come to the presidency having served with distinction in both the private and public sectors as Jamaica's ambassador to the United States, permanent representative to the Organization of American States, Deputy Solicitor General to Jamaica, principal of the Norman Manley Law School, chairman of the board of Scotia Investment Jamaica, and a member of the elite company of those who hold the National Award for Order of Distinction for services to Jamaican education, law, and international relations. It's coming. And now, Chancellor, a few things that our audience might not know. The child is father of the man. That he would be a high achiever was evident from very early. On a government scholarship and lured to Kingston College by his brother Dennis with tales of victories of champs, Sunlight, cricket, and Manning Cup, he was immediately injected, or is it infected, with the purple blood apparently dispensed to all upon initiation. His academic performance was legendary, and he made his mark, not interestingly in sports, although he did play a good game of table tennis, but as an outstanding head boy, editor of the school's magazine, and captain of the first Kingston College team to have won the school's challenge quiz competition. His classmates described the youthful Vasciannie as both deep and different. They tell the story of a French oral examination when, having been asked about their favorite place to take a girlfriend, their answers were Kentucky or Burger King, but his was to the library. Why? There are quiet signs everywhere, and I would have the chance to whisper in her ear. To the second question, what would you do if you were given $1,000? No ordinary answer there either. The reply, count it. Of course, he got an A. And our president has never truly left KC. He has returned as chairman of the board and coach of several subsequent quiz teams for whom he continued to send practice questions even while working abroad. Professor Vasciannie was a proven academic and student activist. Moving on to the University of the West Indies on another scholarship, he resided in Taylor Hall, where he continued to excel, gaining a first-class honors degree in economics, described as the best result ever in the Faculty of Social Sciences. During his stay at Taylor Hall, a very successful reggae party, considered a precursor to Sting and the greatest one-night show produced in Jamaica at the time, was organized by a group calling itself the Value Party. It is no alternative fact that the V in value stood for Vas or Vassi, who, along with Allison and Alayton, controlled the hall and went on to be part of a very influential guild council, making and advocating radical changes at both hall and campus levels. In spite of, or perhaps as a result of these exploits, he went on to attain a Rhodes Scholarship, which led him to Oxford University, where he was again top of his class in the Bachelor of Arts in Jurisprudence, and later received a Doctor of Philosophy. A Master of Law in International Law from Cambridge University, completed his studies in the motherland. The artifacts we gather around us tell their own story, and the two large bookcases now installed in his fairly small office at UTech continue to tell his story. Prof is an educator who feels nowhere more at home than in the classroom. The teacher is a compass, he believes, and teaching provides an excellent opportunity to interact with and point the young along paths not previously considered. As an adjunct professor at Stetson University, lecturing in Caribbean human rights law, and professor of international law at UWI, he understands well the rigors of simultaneous teaching and research, both of which have earned him several awards. As principal of the Norman Manley Law School, he is said to have inspired many of his colleagues to engage in research and publication, and he has already begun to lobby for greater activity here at UTech. Chancellor, Ambassador Vasciannie's tenure as Jamaica's representative to the United States and to the Organization of American States and other such appointments speak to his ability to communicate effectively and foster good relations while remaining loyal to his ideals. As mediator, he has had to display the ability to deal with less than ideal situations and personalities, skills which make him well suited for the job in which he's engaged here at UTech. He's described by friends and colleagues as a man of quiet dignity, humility, and integrity, scrupulously honest, committed to progress but with equality, easily approachable, personable, and human. An increasingly familiar figure walking around the campus, casually greeting those in his path or having lunch at Lillian's characteristic smile in place. We have already begun to appreciate many of these qualities, and certainly when his wife affirms that he's brilliant and humble, we have to believe her. Chancellor, Napoleon Bonaparte defines a leader as a dealer in hope. After the struggles of the recent years, our new president brings us hope. We know that he wishes us well, and that as Fortis, he will never yield. By himself, he cannot succeed, but we believe, as he says, that he's up for the challenge. And with the encouragement of his wife, Dr. Lisa, his sons Sean and Dominic, his family, and many loyal friends, and of course, his newly acquired family here at UTech, he will inspire us to be what we know we can be. It is therefore my honor to ask you all to join me in welcoming Professor Stephen Charles Vasciannie as our fourth president, as he officially takes up this new and we hope exciting challenge.
Professor Stephen Charles Vasciannie, do you agree to uphold the tenets of this university, to abide by its statutes, ordinances, and regulations, and carry out the duties of President of this university nobly and with dignity?
I do, Chancellor.
Where's the instrument? The instrument. Professor Stephen Charles Vasciannie, I now install you as the 4th President of the University of Technology, Jamaica. May the university flourish and prosper under your management. I herewith hand you your instruments of office, and I congratulate you. Please be seated.
Chancellor, the Most Honorable Edward Siaga, President Professor Stephen Vasciannie, Honorable Ministers of Government, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honorable Stedman Fuller, Custos of Kingston, Mr. Richard Powell, Pro-Chancellor, members of Council, heads of tertiary institutions, other members of the academia, legal fraternity, private and public sectors, members of staff and student body, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Professor Stephen Vasciannie, on behalf of the UTech Jamaica Students Union, I congratulate you on your installation as 4th President of Jamaica's National University. Over the past 2.5 months, we have been grateful the time you have taken to meet with the students on various intervals to listen to our concerns. We are happy that you have expressed that you are a student-friendly president, and you have demonstrated that the students, on many occasions, the truism that students are the raison d'etre of the University of Technology, Jamaica. The students have expressed a sense of hope and optimism in the future of the university. We are happy to have an eminent scholar, a researcher, an educator as our new president. Professor Stephen Vasciannie, let me assure you that the students we give you our full support, and we pledge to work closely with you in affirming our motto, excellence through knowledge, in working together to adhere to the university's core value. Again, congratulations to your installation and best wishes through your tenure as president. Mr. Professor Stephen Vasciannie. Thank you.
Chancellor, please allow me to acknowledge some of our distinguished institutions and colleagues in our company here this afternoon. I begin with Ms. Jennifer Griffith, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, members of President Vasciannie's family, his wife, Dr. Lisa Vasciannie, his sons, Mr. Sean Vasciannie and Mr. Dominic Vasciannie, his brother, Mr. Dennis Duncan, and his aunt, Mrs. Joan Vasciannie. I acknowledge also Mr. Vivian Crawford, former Pro-Chancellor of the University of Technology, Jamaica, Dr. the Honorable Alfred Sangster, our former President, Mrs. Maxine Henry Wilson, Commissioner and CEO of the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission, officers present from the University of the West Indies, principals and presidents from the G.C. Foster College, the Michael University College, Shortwood Teachers College, the Portmore Community College, the Montego Bay Community College, members of the legal fraternity. May I also, Chancellor, take the opportunity to convey apologies from the following persons: Their Excellencies, the Most Honorable Patrick Allen and the Most Honorable Lady Allen, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, Honorable Horace Chang, Minister without Portfolio, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Dr. the Honorable Andrew Wheatley, Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, His Excellency David Fritton, British High Commissioner, Dr. the Honorable Ray Davis, OJ, former President of the University of Technology, Jamaica, Professor the Honorable Errol Morrison, OJ, also a former President of the University of Technology, Jamaica. I think the apology was already stated from the Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Brigadier Meade. Thank you, Chancellor.
The Most Honorable Edward Seaga, Chancellor, Professor Vasciannie, President, Honorable Ministers of Government, Honorable Zayden McCullough, Chief Justice of Jamaica, Chief of the Defense of Staff of the Defense Force, Brigadier General Rocky Meade, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honorable Stedman Fuller, CD Custos of Kingston, Mr. Richard Powell, Pro-Chancellor, members of Council, heads of tertiary institutions, other members of academia, the legal fraternity and private and public sectors, members of staff and student body, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My task this evening is very simple, simple enough to get through in all of 2 minutes that I have. Let me start by acknowledging the fact that an occasion like this typically brings together representatives of the critical stakeholder groups that support the university. I must therefore extend greetings to all on behalf of the UTech alumni community and to say a particularly warm welcome to our fourth President, Professor Stephen Vasciannie. Professor Vasciannie, if the results of my surveys of the university alumni community is any indication of how the alumni community feels about your appointment, I can confidently say, sir, that your appointment as a fourth president is met with overwhelming approval. We are very excited and extremely optimistic We're very excited and extremely optimistic about your stewardship of our beloved institution. We are also aware of the challenges that you face going forward, but are confident in your proven ability to effectively tackle them. Professor, you're coming into a university or institution that no doubt is in urgent need of changes to forcibly assert its relevance, not just to Jamaica and the region, but also to the world at large. While you go about making those needed changes, the alumni community is imploring you to take a glance backwards, back to the recent past, when the graduates of CAS UTech were assessed as work ready and therefore would hit the ground running on day one on their employment. We are relying on you, sir, to build on that reputation, because therein lies the competitive advantage of our beloved institution. UTech Alumni Association has a clarified purpose, which is to build and promote the good name and image of the University of Technology. For this to happen, we must have a strong and vibrant alumni community. This, however, is depending on the students' experience while studying at the university. The association, therefore, has a strategic interest in the quality of the UTech-related life of all the students that are enrolled in the university. We therefore challenge you, Professor Vasciannie, to lead the culture of change that will make our beloved institution not only the home of world-class athletes, but a center of excellence for all who work and study here. Let's distinguish ourselves through a persistent program of prolific innovations that will link into and support the strategic goal of our country. If that were to be our medium to long-term goal, sir, we will end up in the short term with an environment that is exciting and enriching for our students. That is the kind of experience that will lead to a strong and vibrant alumni community. That should make it clear, Professor Vasciannie, that the university and the Alumni Association are inextricably linked in a symbiotic relationship that we must make work for the ultimate good and benefit of our country. Welcome again, and best of luck, Prof.
The Most Honorable Edward Siago, Chancellor, Professor Stephen Vasciannie, President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Professor Vasciannie, the announcement of your appointment on December 16, 2016, inspired an instant elevation in spirits, the possibility of hope, and an anticipation of change, real change, positive change. And we thank the Council for your appointment. The highlight of our sojourn through this wilderness resulted in one prominent member of the former council exclaiming, "How did we get here?" While we do not wish to relive the challenges of the past, we must continue to recognize and guard against them and ensure that we do not go back there. But with the help of God, your leadership, management, humanity, and the commitment of the joint unions, set this university on a path to positive and meaningful change, growth, and development. The unions are not your adversaries, but adversaries there are who do not want to see reform and positive change. We will assist and support you to bring about this change. Already, we have recognized your decent, calm, interactive, and humanitarian style. This is a new phenomenon to the leadership of this university, and we sincerely appreciate it. Recently, you astounded us when, with permission, our Miss Angela Livermore, Miss Angie, a member of our ancillary staff, lost her dad, and you sent her a condolence card. This is indeed new. You have come to UTech Jamaica at a time when our core values no longer guide our governance and operations, and we suffer from inadequate funding, a deterioration of our academic and administrative structures, poverty-level wages, and poor conditions of work. Sir Richard Branson, CEO of Virgin Group, said, "Clients do not come first, employees come first. Take care of your employees and they will take care of your clients." He said, "It should go without saying, if the person who works at your company is 100% proud of the brand, and you give them the tools to do a good job, and they are treated well, they're going to be happy. Effectively, in the end, shareholders do well, the customers do better, and your staff remains happy." The scriptures remind us in Proverbs 3:27, "Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them." We long for someone to take care of us as staff, as a national university, so that together we can contribute meaningfully to innovation, research, positive growth, change, and development of Jamaica, land we love. You obviously cannot do it alone, and the joint unions therefore pledges to work with you in strengthening its image so that the finest traditions in research, teaching, and public service in the Western Hemisphere can be realized. The change began on your very first day when you met with us, the leaders of the unions. Surprisingly, not to tell us what was your vision or even your reason for taking the job. We're still trying to figure that one out. But to find out what's wrong and how can you help. Don't get me wrong, we will not always agree, and we might fight, but let us hope the fight will not be public, will not lead to how did we get here, or even are we there yet? Because we will be included in the journey, as you have said in your first meeting with the university staff, that your stewardship as president will be anchored by an inclusive approach to decision making. This is a positive signal, and our expectations are high. Professor Vasciannie, Prof. V, Mr. President, you are now our Commander-in-Chief, and unlike in some jurisdictions that face a challenge with theirs, we are excited here at UTech, truly excited to start this journey, so that we can all know that we are on our way. Indeed, we recognize that it's not a lot of time to achieve all that we want to, but a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. We can hold hands. Welcome, sir. We give you our support.
The Most Honorable Edward Siago, Chancellor, Professor Stephen Vasciannie, President, Honorable Ministers of Government, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honorable Stedman Fuller, Custos of Kingston, members of the Council, heads of tertiary institutions, other members of academia, the legal fraternity, the private and the public sectors, members of staff and the student body, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The University Council, at its meeting held November 28, 2016, received the recommendation from the Joint Committee of Council and the Academic Board for the appointment of President, and unanimously approved the appointment of Ambassador Stephen Vasciannie as President of the University of Technology, Jamaica, for a period of 3 years commencing January 3, 2017. It is my distinct pleasure to add to the expressions of congratulations and good wishes for Professor Vasciannie as he takes up office as the 4th President of the University of Technology. I know that I speak on behalf of the entire Council and the members of the UTech Jamaica community when I say that we are all very pleased to have such a distinguished son of Jamaica as our President. A Rhodes Scholar, legal luminary, widely published author and recipient of numerous awards as an outstanding educator and researcher, Professor Vasciannie's work has taken him to the United Nations, to Wall Street, and beyond. I will not be going into his background that has been adequately covered, but I would like to make the point that the business of management and administration of a higher level teaching and learning institution is not new to Professor Vasciannie, as he has provided outstanding leadership as principal of the Norman Manley Law School from 2008 to 2012. As his profile clearly demonstrates, Professor Vasciannie brings to UTech an exemplary record of accomplishment. His illustrious career in scholarship, research, teaching, and service, as well as his proven leadership competencies, make him particularly well suited to assume the mantle of leadership at UTech at this time in the institution's history. As President, Professor Vasciannie will carry out the functions of Chief Academic and Administrative Officer of the University, reporting directly to the Council through its chairman, the Pro-Chancellor. He will principally be responsible for crafting and implementing the university's strategy and policies under the guidance of the Council, and will exercise such executive powers as are necessary for the proper administration and operation of the university. I have every confidence that under Professor Vasciannie's stewardship, the University of Technology will move inexorably towards the fulfillment of our stated mission to stimulate positive change in Caribbean society through the provision of high-quality learning and research opportunities and service to our communities. I have no doubt also that in that process, UTech will focus and deliver on its role as Jamaica's national university in making invaluable contributions to the attainment of Jamaica's development goals through knowledge development, education and training, and outreach. I make bold on behalf of all its stakeholders that the University of Jamaica community welcomes Professor Vasciannie with open arms. In closing, I call upon all of you here not just to bear witness to Professor Vasciannie's pledge, but to give him your support. With the exceptional talent, ability, and stature of our new president, and the immense talent that abounds in the institution, we have every reason to look optimistically to the future with renewed confidence and expectation. Thank you very much.
Most Honorable Edward Siago, Chancellor, Honorable Stedman Fuller, CD Custos of Kingston, other members of government and public service, Mr. Richard Powell, Pro-Chancellor, distinguished newly installed President, Professor Stephen Vasciannie, CD, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of Council, former President, Dr. Alfred Sangster, other members of the Platform Party, former Minister of Education and Commissioner of JTEC, Mrs. Maxine Henry Wilson, heads of terrorist institutions, other members of academia, the legal fraternity and the private sector, members of the student body, members of the business and academic community, specially invited guests, faculty, staff, and students, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all, good afternoon. This is indeed a very happy occasion for me because as the relatively new minister, I did have my eyes on UTEC by virtue of the call for action. And so this indeed is a momentous occasion where we are moving UTEC forward. Having found the right pro-chancellor, which was quite an undertaking, we have now found the right president for University of Technology for such a time as this. And I'm happy, Pro-Chancellor, that you did it within the time frame that I mandated. We're here to formally acknowledge and entrust one of our best and brightest with yet a Herculean responsibility. Professor Stephen Vasciannie understands the mandate of this university. He understands that UTEC is Jamaica's university, that UTEC is a very special institution. UTEC Jamaica, therefore, must be situated as the premier hub of science and technology in Jamaica, the Caribbean, South America, and Latin America. And let me say, President, the numbers tell us that we have less than 5% of our enrolled tertiary students pursuing engineering and information technology. So you have a very big task ahead of you because we have a bigger vision for UTEC and Jamaica. Because under our administration and vision for Jamaica, we want every youth in Jamaica to aspire to have tertiary education by the time they reach age 30. So you have a mandate to get there and also to get more of our people, not registered 42%, as wonderful as management and accounts is, but certainly in the sciences, in the STEM areas. Like Robert Kennedy, who said, some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. We have to believe, therefore, in our abilities to move this institution and our country forward. And one of the signal objective, President, that I'm tasking you with, because I've already given the mandate that I want more of our universities to have full institutional accreditation. So I look forward to University of Technology be the next university to have full institutional accreditation. So ladies and gentlemen, Professor Vasciannie, my former colleague, coach of School Challenge Quiz fame, is indeed the right man for the right time, and he's indeed at the right place. You have, therefore, Professor, my unqualified support. So let's join hands and hearts to support this noble institution. It is imperative that UTEC achieves its full quota of greatness. And I want to pause here to acknowledge and appreciate the hard work of what we call the search committee and the appointment committee for an outstanding job in taking from that particular, yes, Professor Archibald, and thank you for releasing Professor Vasciannie to the University of Technology. Thank you so much. My dear friends, now is not therefore, as my colleagues from the union has just said, to concern ourselves with who is the greatest in the kingdom. Now is not the time to rehash old differences. Now is not the time to embrace vain pleasures when slight interruptions or even derailment threatens our dream. I have said to the President, and I'm saying to the unions and all stakeholders, I am committing myself within the capacity that I have to do all we can to improve the finances of the University of Technology and the reclassification of positions so that the emoluments of the university will be acceptable. So, ladies and gentlemen, now therefore is the time to build. Now is the time to accept change. Now is the time to let go of rail and imagine fortresses. Now is the time to light candles of hope and not retreat into corners of despair. And let us remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Now is the time to help UTech to shine brighter. God bless the great University of Technology. God bless you. God bless Jamaica, land we love.
Judgment day, my Lord, my Lord. Ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. Ride the chariot in the morning, Lord. I'm getting ready for the judgment day, my Lord, my Lord. Are you ready, my brother? Are you ready for the journey? Do you want to see my Jesus? I'm waiting for the chariot 'cause I'm ready to go. Ride the chariots in the morning, Lord. Ride the chariots in the morning, Lord. I'm getting ready for the judgment day, my Lord, my Lord. Are you ready, my sister? Are you ready for the journey? Do you want to see my Jesus? I'm waiting for the chariot 'cause I'm ready to go. I never shall forget the day.
The Most Honorable Edward Siaga, Chancellor, Honorable Ministers of Government, the Honorable Zayla McCalla, Chief Justice of Jamaica, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Honorable Stedman Fuller, CD, Custos of Kingston, Mr. Richard Powell, Pro-Chancellor, members of the Council of the University of Technology, heads of tertiary institutions, former Minister of Education, Mrs. Maxine Henry Wilson, other members of academia, the legal fraternity, the private and public sectors, members of staff and the student body, representatives of the church, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of family and friends, brothers and sisters all, good evening, afternoon. I'm trying my best to make it look as if I wear these threads every day. I thank you all for coming, and I thank especially those who have said such nice things about me. There were moments when I was having recognition problems. My speech this afternoon is about 10 pages long, and it will last about 10 minutes. So 1 minute for each week I've been here so far. First of all, allow me to publicly thank my family. Sorry, I've split my infinitive. Allow me publicly to thank my family for lending me to the University of Technology. Dr. Lisa, Mr. Sean, and Mr. Dominic Vasciannie have lent me to other institutions before, but I want them to know that I do not take their support, forbearance, and love for granted. I should also say from the outset, I'm looking at the color scheme of my family. My wife is in a green dress, the same color as the tie that Dr. Colley has on. My son is in an orange tie, the color we associate with the non-green party. And my other son is in a red shirt, the kind of red we used to wear when we were members of the Workers' Party of Jamaica in the 70s. Let me also thank, and it's the same color as Costas Fuller's tie. Let me also thank other family members and friends for the guidance they have given me as I have embarked on this venture. I see Dennis, my beloved brother, Miss Dorcas White, Dr. Dallas. Dr. Dallas, you are here, right? Yes, Dr. Dallas, and several others who have provided me with valuable insight as I have embarked. I also see Dr. Ashley, whose latest advice to me is that I must not pitch down today. I hope you see the evidence of my pitching up so far. Permit me also to thank the distinguished Chancellor, our Minister of Education, the Pro-Chancellor, and members of the Council for their decisions which have resulted in today's installation. I am also grateful to the members of staff at UTech, academic, administrative, technical, and ancillary, who have welcomed me with kindness and grace. I thank the organizers of today's event. I know a lot of work and planning went into it. And I offer special thanks to someone who would have wanted to be here and who has been a source of inspiration to me in the last 10 weeks or so. That's Miss Pat Mahoney, who lost her mother 2 nights ago and so is unable to attend. I also thank the students of UTech who have greeted me with warmth and courtesy. There is a new magazine put out. It's called Voices, and it's prompted, Chancellor, by a suggestion by you that it's good to have things online, but sometimes we need to have something to hold on to. So Voices has been published, I think today is the publication date, and it has been published by the hardworking Corporate Communications Unit of the University. It is hot off the press. Well, Voices number 1. In Voices number 1, in the middle page, I'd suggest they should interview some students to get their views on UTech. And they did do that, but they asked the students as an introductory question, so what do you think about the new president? One student, a very wise young man, says, he's a very cool person and very funny. A second one says, he reminds me of an old principal I had. You see, we had a principal who used to be in his office all the time, and then this new one came and used to walk around. So this one, Vasciannie, he walks around the school and interacts with the students, which is a good thing. And the third one says, he may have some great ideas to develop the institution. But 3 of the 9 students, 3 other students, did not know there was a new president. Minister Reed, as they say at Jamaica College down the road, work is burning in the fields. In my list of gratitude, I must also thank administrators, colleagues, and friends at UWI for letting me go. There are some moments when I thought they let me go too freely, you know, but for letting me go. So too, my US students, with whom I left with much sadness, amidst the pleasures of multiple choice questions about the sources of international law and the technicalities of Pianca versus Hilton in the law of the sea. There is a question that I always ask my students, and I didn't get to ask them this year because I was taken away. It is, in diplomatic law, suppose somebody runs into the US embassy in Jamaica and has a baby in the embassy. What is the nationality of the baby? Is it a US baby or a Jamaican baby? I know some of you want visa, so you say it's US. It is a Jamaican baby. See the case of Radwan and Radwan. I didn't get to teach them that, and it burning me. I'm almost inviting myself over to Mona to go and teach it. Anyway, I would also like to thank Mr. George Willie, speaking about U.S. Embassy, Mr. George Willie, who came from Washington, D.C. to be at the function today. Mr. Willie, Mr. Wiley, I thank you for being here. Mr. Wiley has established the George Wiley Lecture at the University of the West Indies, and I'm going to be talking to him because it needs to be George Wiley Lecture at the University of Technology as well. I would also like to give a special word of thanks to Aunt Joan Vasciannie. Aunt Joan, when I was in sixth form, heard that I was doing A-level history, and the next thing I knew, gave me a copy of William Law Mattison's British Slavery and Its Abolition, which was a very hard to get book for A-level students. And it made me know, you have to get a distinction in the subject, you know, because Aunt Joan has invested so substantially in me. And I tell you another one, I'm at UWI, and Aunt Joan is working in the library there. And you know, in those days, it was fashionable to wear tracksuit pants. By the way, this is not in the speech, so don't count it in the 10 minutes, right? Fashionable, you wear your tracksuit pants, right? And I wore my tracksuit pants to the library one day, red with some white stripes. And Aunt Joan saw me and said, something not right here. She didn't say what it was. The next thing I know, Aunt Joan's husband, Uncle Vin, came to pick me up to take me to buy 2 new pairs of trousers down Newport West. So I was protected by Aunt Joan. And as I talk about clothes, I should tell you, Dr. Colley, who is here, we go back to 1971. Richard Deitch as well. But Dr. Colley and I came on campus together and used to go down to help out the School Challenge quiz team. We weren't the first team to win, by the way. It was a team 2 years before that. But we won. Anyway, Dr. Colley and I used to go down to KC. And again, I'm on campus, and I'm adopting the sartorial standards of campus. And I put on some sandals to go down to KC. And Dr. Colley looked at me and said, Vasciannie, I'm not going anywhere with you in sandals. And I had to go and humbly take off my sandals parked myself in proper shoes, and we headed off to Casey. Chancellor, I'm honored to be standing here this afternoon, grateful, excited, and slightly overawed by the opportunities and the accompanying challenges of taking the university forward. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to avoid noting that we are in the Alfred Sangster Auditorium. Dr. Sangster, it is a privilege to have you here today. I regard your account of your stewardship, the making of a university, from CAST to the University of Technology, as required reading for UTech people. Today, I offer one quotation from that publication. Quote, "The work at CAST and later at UTech, Jamaica, was essentially one of building an institution which had an important early start, but which seemed to have an uncertain future at the time. The motto that came to be accepted by the community, building a future together, came to symbolize the institution's ethos and modus operandi." End of quote. History is indeed a story of starts and starts. But if I may quote another predecessor, Dr. the Honorable Ray Davis, quote, "Each of us stands on the shoulders of his predecessors," his or her predecessors. "This advantage enables us to see further and reach higher," end of quote. So we set off on this leg of the journey from slightly higher ground, thanks to the contribution of all those who have gone before. And let me assure Dr. Sangster, Dr. Davis, Professor Morrison, Ambassador Whiteman, and Professor Giles, that the modus operandi will be to take the positive features of your respective tenures in order to build the future together. Management literature tells us that the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. The leader should not do so as an authoritarian, seeking to impose his or her views upon others. Rather, the leader should aspire to help everyone in the organization to gain more insightful views of current reality. What then is the current reality faced by the University of Technology, Jamaica? We need to identify this reality if we are to come together around a shared vision for the institution. Where are we now? Where should we seek to go? And what are some of the constraints that limit the great potential that UTech has in serving Jamaican society and the wider Caribbean? Just a quick answer to that based on what the minister has said today. One of the big objectives of UTech is parity with UWI with respect to salaries, pay, and condition. And the minister has publicly committed to that proposition. Minister, when you said it, I wasn't sure you said it because I have something in this ear. But somebody touched me and said, make sure you tell him to send the money. Minister, send the money. In the 10 weeks that I have been here, these are the questions that I have been exploring with colleagues and other members of the UTech community so that we can come together to work in unison for the good name, reputation, and advancement of UTech Jamaica. Where are we now? Some of the answers are very clear. We can look at the balance sheet and see some of the assets and liabilities. Of course, some of the answers are not so clear, but permit me to look at the asset side and mention briefly some of the institutional wealth that I have inherited. These few examples are merely to indicate that UTech is still in quite robust health in some respects. The university stands on 3 pillars: teaching, research, and service. On the teaching side, we have a current enrollment of just under 13,000 students. The institution, CAST/UTech, has turned out over 60,000 graduates since its inception. UTech graduates are still touted as industry-ready and highly regarded by potential employers. UTech is still the leading institution in the English-speaking Caribbean for the training of health professionals in a number of areas, notably pharmacy, training for professionals in the fields related to the built environment and land management, architects, land valuators, surveyors, and so on, and in the training of educators in technical education, to pick out just 3 areas. An estimated 75% of UTech's programs are related to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And similarly, UTech, through the School of Technical and Vocational Education, remains engaged in the national dialogue on scientific and technical education. Just this month, we launched an MSc degree in sustainable energy and climate change. Dr. Pratap Singh is here. She's described as the mother of that program. This initiative is expected to provide leadership and training in the field for the entire region. That's teaching. Our research activities are guided by the School of Graduate Studies, Research, and Entrepreneurship, with a mandate to focus on interdisciplinary and applied research relevant to the country's economic and social problems and needs. In recent times, some of the more notable research activities have included the following, for example. 1, in information and communications technology, we have seen the development of software to assist deaf students in language learning by Dr. Paul Golding. 2, a modular LED lighting system for street lighting. This development in LED technology yielded promising alternatives with several advantages: significantly longer life, better maintenance, and lower energy consumption. An application has already been made for patent protection. 3, investigation of Jamaica's endemic plants in the cockpit country region. Our researcher, Dr. Andrew Lamb, is in search of new natural products with medicinal, agricultural, and other commercial applications. 4, UTech Jamaica is advanced in marijuana research. Maybe I should say a little more. The university has been collaborating with local and international partners in this regard with the view of supporting the development of medicinal cannabis in Jamaica. Teaching, research, and service. So now service. As to service, the university remains committed to the idea that our students, academics, and administrators must contribute to the development of Jamaican and Caribbean society. We must do this because social outreach improves us as individuals and reminds us that no person is an island. But in addition, we must undertake social outreach efforts because we recognize that society is investing in us. UTech students are generally beneficiaries of tax dollars paid by Jamaican residents. So, even in the face of well-known economic challenges, our students must be encouraged to give back to society. This is not merely theoretical. The university, through its community service program, known as CSP 1001, has reached out over the years to various Jamaican entities and has made a significant difference in the lives of persons in need. This is a contribution of which UTech should be very proud. It is part of our institutional DNA and helps to define the social wealth of our organization. On the question of social outreach, allow me to offer one further point. In several respects, Jamaica throws up more than its fair share of challenges. We are, in short, a tough society. Many of us cower in fear because of the violence which abounds. There is too, in some instances, a coarseness in public discourse. And we now have occasion to note that the roughness in society has spread. Rural Jamaicans in the past would sometimes think twice about visiting certain violence-plagued parts of Kingston. You know this saying, not even John Crow will fly in certain parts. Now, however, the roughness also defines some other parishes. And more generally, many of us regret the disappearance of trust, civility, cooperation, and respect in areas of national life. In this context, denizens of the university, you and I, must be reminded that we have a duty to be exemplars of proper values and attitudes. We must accept the concept of noblesse oblige. When someone has been given much, much is respected in return, to borrow from St. Luke's Gospel. In response, I expect some students will want to challenge the premise that much has been given to them. True, the student's lot is not an easy one, but we should acknowledge that you are being encouraged along a path of achievement that will enable you to contribute substantially to your livelihood and your society. We should not scoff at this benefit, and I do not believe you do. Since my arrival at the University of Technology, several persons, both within and without the institution, have asked me about my vision for UTech. I'm at page 7. I understand the nuances and implications in that question. It is not just about current reality, the things we can see with the naked eye. There are inner eye questions as well, matters of perception, and questions about hopes, aspirations, imagination, and judgment. So it is important to note that as an institution, UTech may be doing reasonably well in some respects, but this is not enough. Persons also want to know whether there is a path towards progress and further progress, and they want to know in short order what are the plans to address significant areas of weakness, many of which have made it to the opinion pages of our national newspapers and into our energetic talk show circuit. Over the past 10 weeks or so, I've sought to listen to various groups within the UTech community. But in the midst of my listening, I've sought to be guided by certain fundamental elements which help to define my vision for the institution. These fundamental elements, some of which have been very kindly recorded in the Sunday Observer newspaper, include the following. 1, UTech must ensure it provides a student-friendly environment. Our students must know that we are working to ensure that they fulfill their intellectual potential in keeping with international standards of treatment, teaching, and learning. This emphasis on the place of the student must be based on the fact that students are not an afterthought in the work of UTech. They constitute the raison d'etre of the institution. They are our primary reason for being here. As part of the drive to promote student interest and learning, we should, for instance, introduce a competitive scholarship examination on a faculty-by-faculty basis. This should be the highest merit-based award from the university. Likewise, in keeping with a student-centered approach, we must apply our rules with a sympathetic, balanced, and even-handed spirit. Perceptions of different treatment without justification will invariably cause grievance. By the same token, in matters such as the administration of discipline and in the treatment of applications in various areas of university life, we must aspire towards the highest standards of customer service. If we do not, treat our students with kindness, professionalism, and courtesy, we should not be surprised when, having graduated, they opt to disregard us. Two, in placing students at the center of our academic universe, we should also be mindful of practical challenges faced by students. If you have a scholarship, for instance for sports, you should receive the benefits of the scholarship on time. If you wish to use Wi-Fi from your hall of residence, you should be able to do so without hassle. There may be good reasons to explain some of the challenges currently faced by students, but we must all work to overcome and banish these reasons. Similarly, if we are truly student-centered, we must constantly assess our programs and our standards in order to ensure that we continue to expose our students to the realities and requirements of the 21st century global marketplace. 3, universities live and die on the basis of the creation and dissemination of knowledge. UTech lecturers must always place themselves in a position to undertake independent research and keep up with the latest developments in their respective fields. I accept the responsibility to drive and promote a renewed research thrust, keeping in our sights the fact that research is competitive and global. With this in mind, there are a number of initiatives that I will encourage you to publish 3 or 4 times per year, featuring the work of UTech lecturers. Secondly, we should introduce financial incentives for persons who publish articles in peer-reviewed journals or scholarly books. Thirdly, UTech should establish a university press in order to increase the avenues for scholarly publications for academics in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Fourthly, and this is perhaps the general point, we should engender a culture of publishing according to which promotion within the academic ranks is largely dependent on scholarly work. Point 4, my commitment is to our having an inclusive and transparent institution. I believe that UTech must strive to be an inclusive institution where attention is paid to the views of the different stakeholders. Of course, in the end, as Mrs. Haldane has acknowledged, some views will prevail over others on a particular issue. But every stakeholder must feel that she or he has had a fair hearing. To date, quite a few persons have felt at liberty to stop me on the campus with issues, and Mr. McGregor, the Student Union President, has been commendably frank and straightforward in his representation of student interests. When we combine transparency with integrity and judgment, our time spent on infighting will be greatly reduced. Five, UTech must seek to promote cooperative and competitive relationships within the Jamaican academic community. We must be cooperative because we are all working for the benefit of our students and our wider communities. Here I take the opportunity to welcome expressly some of my much respected colleagues from the University of the West Indies and some of my former students from the Norman Manley Law School and from the UWI. Thank you for coming. Generally too, we must realize that competition in some areas will only help to enhance the quality of our lecturers, students, administrators, and other staff members. If I know that students may choose one university or another, it will be in my interest to perform at the highest level in order to be attractive to students. Moreover, as university choice widens, this serves to increase the enrollment level of Jamaican and Caribbean nationals in tertiary studies. This commitment to increased enrollment is a commitment to higher intellectual standards throughout the country and the region. As part of our effort to cultivate a cooperative and competitive tertiary level environment, we should, of course, discourage tribalism among our universities. Friendly rivalry is good, and I note in passing that UTech is the home of champions, but it must never become hostility. 6, another important vision question concerns points of emphasis in UTech's work. Some people say that UTech must focus exclusively on technology and scientific matters and leave other non-scientific subjects to other places. There are two issues here. First, what should be our focus? And second, should our focus on some subjects lead to the exclusion of all others? In response to the first, it is beyond argument that the University of Technology should concentrate on technology issues as its name suggests. But just as importantly, our focus on technology and scientific matters need not prompt us to ignore other issues. Some of UTech's offerings, for example, in business-related subjects, are of high quality and have been in place for years. They proceed on the basis that scientific and technological developments need to take place within a commercial context. They also proceed on the basis that business and commercial activities are of profound significance to Caribbean societies. UTech should therefore continue to offer these courses in areas not regarded as purely technologically driven. At an earlier time, when we cast our bread upon the waters for it to come back after many days, the College of Arts, Science, and Technology firmly defended its jurisdiction in the arts. And similarly, the constituent instruments of the University of Technology retain the idea that areas of study within the humanities fall properly within the scope of the institution. At a time when the intellectual community is opening up avenues of enrollment for an increasing number of students, the case for UTech to continue its teaching in business, the humanities, the law, and other scientific, non-scientific areas is firmly made. And the point may be taken further. UTech should not work on the assumption that there is a body of learning in science and technology that may be kept distinct always and everywhere from the body of learning identified as the humanities. Rather, we should cultivate the view that the scientists must have some degree of appreciation for the arts and vice versa. By allowing the interplay between different areas of study, even while placing emphasis on science and technology, UTech will help to promote well-rounded graduates ready to excel in their chosen areas of specialization, but exposed to other fields of learning. More than 50 years ago, the British scientist, come government official, come novelist, C.P. Snow, reflected on the two cultures, the arts and the sciences, in a celebrated lecture at Cambridge University. I wasn't there at the time. Snow bemoaned the tendency to assume that persons should not be exposed to different areas of learning. He stated his thesis as follows, quote, "A good many times I have been present at gatherings of people who by the standards of traditional culture are thought highly educated and who have with considerable gusto been expressing their incredulity at the illiteracy of scientists. Once or twice, I have been provoked and have asked the company how many of them could describe the second law of thermodynamics. The response was cold, it was also negative. Yet I was asking something which was the scientific equivalent of, have you read a work of Shakespeare's? I now believe that if I had asked an even simpler question, such as, what do you mean by mass or acceleration, which is the scientific equivalent of saying, can you read? Not more than 1 in 10 of the highly educated would have felt that I was speaking the same language. So the great edifice of modern physics goes up, and the majority of the cleverest people in the Western world have about as much insight into it as their Neolithic ancestors would have had." End of quote. So on the question of emphasis, yes, UTech must focus on the technology sphere, but we should not behave as if other areas of learning are unimportant, nor should we cut back on opportunities for the pursuit of other areas of learning that we have already established. 7, finally, I wish to make what may be a controversial point about UTech and the issue of self-perception. At an introductory meeting with staff and in a town hall meeting with students, one question, the same question, was posed by two different persons. The question was, why have you come here? Tone is important. The tone of the question was not, look, Vasciannie, we know you're a Butu, where you come here for? Instead, it was a more gentle and probing question, as in, look, Vasciannie, we know you have done a thing or two in academia and diplomacy. Why would you want to come here? In response, I said that I have come because I believe I can make a difference at the institution. But at its heart, this question tells us something about UTech and about where our shared vision should take us. UTech must perceive itself as equal to the great universities of the world and must work towards the fulfillment of this perception. So in closing, one, if we work hard at making UTech more student-friendly, if we join the effort to enhance publications, if we commit ourselves more seriously to scholarship, if we are more committed to high-quality research, if we provide opportunities for our students to flourish in an atmosphere of equality and fairness, and if we reduce the level of internal disagreement as we seek to expand our intellectual horizons, if we do all these things, then UTech people will not ask, why did you come here? No, they will say, we know why you came here. So we must redouble our efforts to stand on the shoulders of others, and we must inspire to greatness as an institution. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Thank you.
What a wonderful evening this has been. I see some people with fans, but the great majority don't need any fans. There's a wind of change blowing through this hall today. At last, we can feel that we are on the road, and that road will lead to success. And it will be one of my great dreams to see this university, which in the 1960s I called the University of Jamaica, and we still have not been able to make it the University of Jamaica. It will be my great pleasure to see this University of Jamaica materialize. But I must warn you that despite the fact of all the talents that we have gathered and all the ideas that we have, there's one that I find that abounds in Jamaica that defeats so many projects. And I'm going to tell you just 3 very short incidents in my career which will spin this out. When I was the Minister of Development and Welfare, I had responsibility for youth. And that gave me responsibility for 2 youth camps, Chestervale and Cobbler, both in the cooler climates of the mountains of Jamaica. And I pondered, what are we doing here? What are we sending these kids back home to do that would have been meaningful and could earn something for them? And then it came to me that these are wonderful climates for the growing of mushrooms. I had difficulty in explaining what a mushroom was until one boy came up with the answer, if I mean dopey umbrella. And I said, yeah, you call it dopey umbrella, but people eat them. There was a lot of consternation. Anyway, I asked the United States and I asked Germany to let us have a specialist who could teach about the growing of mushrooms. And I select this story because just 2 days ago I saw where a Peace Corps person came into the Jamaican environment and will be doing that. Well, I was traveling at the time when I got a call to say the German specialists and the United States specialists are arriving. I said, wonderful. They said, well, the problem is they're coming on the same plane, arriving at the same time from different areas. I said, put one in Cobbler and put one in Chestervale. And we got mushrooms growing in no time at all. The Kingston market was demanding them. The hotels, few that they were demanding them. And I knew this would explode to the tourist industry. But I was transferred from that ministry to the Ministry of Finance, and my successor didn't really have an idea that this would be a good project, and so it failed. I thought that the growing of strawberries at a time when the United States does not have strawberries growing in their market would be wonderful. So we lined up the importation of a number of seedlings and set them out to the farmers in Mandeville. And they grew them, and they were very large and succulent. And they were sold to the hotels who greatly appreciated them. But soon enough, the hotels realized they could deal with the farmer, not with the investor, and the strawberries were grown and sold over the fence so that the investor left and the project collapsed. And the third project was one I did in the closing years of the 1980s, when the computer, it had been discovered, could be a tremendous instrument for uploading and downloading data. And if sent to the right countries, young people there could do the work after receiving and then transmitting it back. We got a wonderful partner, AT&T, the American telephone and telegraph company, one of the giant institutions in the United States. And we started, and pretty soon there were hundreds of young people who came around wanting to do it. I had to convert Kenilworth Youth Camp to training. Kenilworth was in Lucy. They did it. They went to Kenilworth. But there was a change again. The government's changed. And the dreams of putting that project in areas like Brownstown and Highgate, and areas that had a somewhat more academic background, didn't materialize. And so the project went on its own, charging a small fee to the students. But it never got to where I wanted it. Well, in 1997, a minister from the new government went down to Freeport in Montego Bay and saw this project and said, what a wonderful opportunity to employ thousands of young people. Very good. He started, but on the wrong foot. Somebody from Trinidad came here and said, I could get you 40,000 students in no time at all. That's 40,000 jobs. What an opportunity. But give me $250,000. He was given the $250,000, but we never got a single job from him. He disappeared. So you've got to keep your eye on the ball as if you're playing a game of cricket. And you may succeed in every other aspect, but if you don't watch the ball until it hits the bat, it's going to be problems. And this is the last thing that I want to leave as a message to this university. Keep your eye on the ball. There is no country that is poor that has a good education system. And there is no country that is rich that doesn't have a good education system. Let them earn and let them learn. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. The function of this evening, which we have all enjoyed, and I hope that it has refreshed you. Thank you very much.